Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. We are actually in the green room for DisrupTV. And of course, I'm with my amazing co-host, founder, Vala Afshar, and of course, our producer, Elle. And we're going to be introducing our guests in reverse order, like we always do. We ask them where they're coming in from and what they're going to talk about today. So, Wes, where are you coming in from?
Hey, I'm calling in from Atlanta, and I'm going to be talking about the leadership practices that help make work meaningful.
OTP or ITP?
Oh, definitely ITP.
A real Atlanta. I'm just kidding. Tamara, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about?
I'm coming in from Concord, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. And with Wes, I'm going to be talking about the leadership impact on the experience of meaningful work.
It's going to be so important in an age of AI. That purpose and that mission, we'll hit that up soon.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Jonathan, where are you coming from? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I'm calling in from Kirkland, Washington, just east of Seattle. And I'll be talking about my book, Daily Practices of Inclusive Leaders.
Kirkland, made famous. What a brand. Everybody loves that brand. So thank you. David, where are you coming in from?
Hey, it's from Denver, Colorado. We've gone from the East Coast to the West. I'm here in the middle.
All right.
And I'll be talking a little bit about the evolution of CRM and what's going on within the industry.
300 days of sun. Look at that.
It's true. We've got the best sunshine in the country.
We heard the rumors. We'll have to go find out. We'll be a mile high. Very, very cool. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to throw it back to you, Elle. Let's kick it off. And of course, let's do the count.
3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host. He's the CEO, founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And I see him on TV just about every day. So he's one of the top futurists to follow on X, but you could also see him on Bloomberg, CNBC, Fox Business. My good friend, Ray Wang, welcome.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with Vala Afshar, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also author of multiple books, including Boundless, which I carry with me every day. It's a new mindset for unlimited business readers, success, and a #1 seller on Amazon. But it's more importantly, executives around the world pay attention to every one of his insightful and innovative and inspirational tweets. And more importantly, when he's not keynoting, speaking, or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg and posting insightful analyses on ZDNet. But it's not about us. We always say it's about our amazing guests. And who do we have to kick it off today?
We're so fortunate. We have some of the top CEOs in the world come on our show, and there's no exception today. David Roberts, CEO of SugarCRM. David has spent a career empowering customer-facing organizations to excel and knowing their customers and driving exceptional market sales and service engagements. David launched SugarCRM 2004, 21 years ago. David is currently president and CEO of SugarCRM and is responsible for leading the company's vision, culture, strategy, and operations. David has led exceptional companies and teams for 30 years with publicly listed and private equity-backed companies with focus on profitable growth, successful M&A. He joined SugarCRM for Alchemir, a global SaaS company focused on helping 12,000 global customers improve their experiences and their customer employee feedback programs. David served as CEO and director during a period of incredible growth and scale, rebranding and repositioning the company and selling business to KKR. Welcome, David, to DisrupTV.
Thank you, Val. It's great to be here. I must say I've got author envy with all the authors you have between the two of you and everyone on the show today.
No, you have probably 10 books in you. So you're just busy building successful companies.
Right.
That priorities.
Maybe it's in my future.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Definitely in your future. I mean, there's so much to write about, so much to talk about, and especially this big transition we're in the middle of, right? I mean, the world of enterprise applications is not going to be the same 5 years from now, maybe even 3 years from now. And we're talking about how apps are entering this legacy phase and entering a renewal phase at the same time. Almost every transactional system is basically being rethought out. And what does that mean? And how does it get to it, right? We don't know if the transactional systems today will look like the transactional systems in the future, but we know it's going to be different. Tell us how it's going to be different. And what is that, what is going on today with existing apps and what it's going to look like in that future for you?
Yeah. Well, I think apps are going to start to meet humans where they are. Like you and I have talked about, Ray, I think, we're so used to in enterprise software, this whole paradigm of rows and columns. It existed all the way back in the client server days. I started my software career working with Siebel Systems and Accenture almost 30 years ago. And, through this entire journey, and, might be slightly awkward, Vala, with our Salesforce friends here, but still, Salesforce today has that same rows and columns metaphor. Sugar does. I think software can start to meet people where they are, wherever they show up, and the evolution of technology is going to allow people to interact with knowledge and information and data, I think, in an entirely different way.
I mean, you're right. Like ERP, basically what we are was in a situation where the transactions drove everything. But then we went from transactions to engagement in that social world. And then we went from engagements to experiences as we crafted out journeys. And then from there, we tried to get this mass personalization at scale. And, Vala's going to smile when I say this. We are moving to that next era of autonomous systems, right? That shift is really where this world is headed, right? And these it's almost that situational awareness, but that gap between how we get here to situational awareness, like, where do you see that? What's that vision? So,
yeah, well, we focus at Sugar, we focused a lot on sellers. And I think, if you believe that selling is the transference of belief, which I do, you're really getting someone to believe what you believe and sharing that with them. I think we're always going to need sellers, humans out there talking to other humans about how they help solve their business problems. But the way that I think application technology can evolve is to be more of an Iron Man suit for sellers, to give them a sense of where they ought to focus and to help them know what's the next best thing for them to go do. All the way back in '94, when I was working with Siebel in its early days, the vision was to be able to help sellers do better. And instead, CRM became a bit about process adherence, a little bit about control, a little bit about the illusion of control. Sales managers want more visibility to pipeline. They want a more accurate forecast. I'm not sure that really helps businesses scale. It gives them the illusion of that control. I think the goal is to really help sellers know what to go do next. And I think the way technology is evolving is we can do that now. We can really see everything that's going on using artificial intelligence, business intelligence, and point sellers in the right direction. So that human experience is still going to be important, but I think we can superpower sellers by giving them that context.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. I'm just using Goldmine. I'm just kidding.
Goldmine. That's awesome. That's
really
awesome.
Back in the day.
These are legacy. These are titans in the industry. You've devoted 30 years of your life helping business professionals believe in their craftsmanship and help their customers achieve their mission, selling, servicing, marketing, whatever it may be. And I love the Iron Man reference. Who doesn't want Jarvis right next to him?
Right.
Trying to figure out the next. I want Jarvis. I want to be able to speak to it, point to things. The whole multimodality that we saw with Iron Man or Minority Report. It's funny, the movies that we gravitate to with superheroes doing sci-fi things is more and more of a reality for us in the world of business. Yeah. In your 30-year journey of trying to build solutions that can act like an Iron Man suit or a Jarvis, talk to us about what your what you're seeing in terms of artificial intelligence, business intelligence. How does it help improve contextual understanding of your stakeholder needs and what it means in terms of evolution of CRM as we look forward?
Yeah, well, I think we're all talking so much about artificial intelligence today, and it has a massive role in changing how enterprise software works and how businesses work. I've talked about the ABCs of intelligence. So you just said it, Vala, like artificial intelligence and business intelligence, I think only makes sense in contextual intelligence. And what we want to be able to do is help users of enterprise software, in this case sellers, have the context to know what to go do next. So I think, AI, if I use that as an example, I think where AI can be super powerful is understand a massive amount of information and solve the big problem of sales spotlighting. We as managers often tell sellers, don't forget about your renewal, or don't forget about this cross-sell, or don't forget about this new product. And sellers tend to spotlight around based on whatever management's pointing them towards. And we as management fail because we can only emphasize one or two things at once. So I think what AI and BI used well can do is be able to help sellers know what to go do next, which account to focus on, and which product to highlight. And there's so much complexity. Those sellers, I think, really benefit from that kind of guidance, leveraging these kind of technologies.
It's a great point. We were having breakfast last week. I think it feels like a few weeks ago.
It was Friday, Ray. It was just Friday.
I think it was just Friday. This is the thing. I've
Ray
been
lives
traveling.
in dog years, so days become months and months.
Well, it's true. And we ended up covering such a wide gamut from city planning and zoning to higher education to enterprise software. So we had a great breakfast.
We had a great breakfast, right? And I was just thinking about it, just at the beginning when Oasis was being created at Oracle with Tom Siebel, right? At that point when Mei-Ling Feng and Tom got together, and Peter Lim and all these folks, Meyer, you got the whole crew, right?
Yep.
This is the OG for CRM, right?
It is OG, yeah.
We're going back 20 years. We had this idealistic dream that we were going to build it for the sellers. How did it end up being built for managers? What happened? Is it just the buyers weren't there? The sellers weren't interested in it? This whole industry of CX. We all have a common friend, like Bob Stutz. He's all mad at software at the moment. He's like, that's right. Everyone's not building this, right? And we've got other people who are just from that crew, you've got the Jujars of the world. You've got the folks that transform this, all different companies. You've got you sitting here. We have a chance to reinvent CRM.
I think
to make it different, right? And it's in this process, right? Agentic creates that huge opportunity, but also the paradigms of who we sell to, right? So when we go back and dig in that vision, where do you see this?
Yeah, I think we are at sort of a special time. And that was the dream back then, to really help sellers. I think what ended up being true is the cost to put information in compared to the value that sellers got out, the equation was upside down, right? And so, people got hold of CRM implementations, and the product team wanted competitive data, and the marketing team wanted industry data, and the sellers were being told by their managers to track things. And before you know it, to be a little tactical about it, an opportunity record had 72 fields on it. And the sellers are like, what am I doing all day long here, right? I think where technology has evolved, we have the opportunity now to flip that equation on its head. So as an example, one of our chief architects at Sugar said, I love this quote, that structured data is the data of business and unstructured data is the data of relationships. And if you believe that sellers are all about relationships, we need to be able to get at unstructured information, phone calls, emails, Slack messages, texts. That's where all this communication is happening. And because of the power of technology today, we can ingest that and make sense of it on behalf of the seller, and then give them back the value that we always hoped we could provide by leveraging that information. So I think technology is going to make that vision possible, Ray.
You're absolutely right. We did the same thing to doctors. The most valuable people in the organization, we turned them into clerks. Right? They're entering the stuff into the EMR.
EMR.
Why am I wasting my time here? And now at least we can go in and, like the scanners can come in and get your heart rate. You don't even have to do that, right? You can actually do like this quantum sensing, right? There's stuff that's happening out there that you can actually get all the data that's being captured. And so that when it shows up, you're focused on next best action, right?
Totally.
You were here like 5 weeks ago and you saw this and how did that go, right? And, maybe you're smart and you upcode something a little bit more to say, hey, you need to go here. Maybe you're even smarter. You set the next appointment up automatically because you're synced to their calendar. Maybe on the other end, you get a pharmaceutical, like a script written that gets sent out like at the pharmacy that you need to be at based on your preferences. And so all that wasted time is gone.
Yeah.
And you can just focus in on selling or focus in on the patient. So
it's a fantastic analogy, Ray. I think if you think enterprise software is about capture and understand and act, I think we can jump over capture and we can jump over understand and we can focus on act, right?
I'm so tired of capture. It's
capture. It wears everybody out. Yeah.
20 years of capture. Help me.
You wrote about this. You wrote about this in an HBR article several years ago, Ray. I remember you talked about the patient journey as they walk into the hospital all the way to post visit and treatment. So we talk about contextual understanding. We had a venture capitalist on our show, and he reminded us the questions that professional sales have to answer all the time, and the answers get progressively harder. Why buy anything? Why buy from you? And why buy now? And so, do you think that this, when you take the ABCs as you mentioned, system will be able to guide professional sellers to be able to more easily answer with precision, speed, relevance?
Yeah.
Why buy anything? Why buy from you? And why buy now?
Yeah. Well, I believe sales is a tactical engine. I've always said this, right? Which means you have to have fantastic product marketing, fantastic enablement to set up sellers to be successful in what they do. And I think absolutely, Vala, if you can put the right content in front of the right seller based on the right opportunity, I think AI allows us to be able to do that. Here's an example. If you look at manufacturing and you look at the average seller and their age and their knowledge of the customer base and the product catalog, right? These 60-year-olds are carrying around this massive knowledge.
Institutional knowledge, yeah.
I don't think we're ever going to find the next generation of seller to hang with it long enough to be able to command all that. So companies have got to figure out how to point new sellers at the right product for the right customer with all the context of historical data that they're never going to be able to establish like they have over the last 40 years.
You mentioned Jarvis suit or Iron Man. I mentioned Jarvis, but you feel like at some point it's Neo in Matrix, wears a headset and goes from white belt to black belt really quick. So the intelligent software does a cognitive upgrade where you could be a 24-year-old out of school starting your selling career, but you're surrounded by intelligent software where you're turbocharging the learning rate of learning so that they could not have to spend 60 years to be able to actually add value.
Yeah.
I
think 100%. That's exactly the vision. So what you end up looking for is the intrinsics in the people, that those 20-year-olds. You want them to be curious. You want them to be great communicators. You start latching onto those intrinsics, and then you arm them with all the knowledge they need to be able to apply those intrinsic talents in the right way.
What a great time to be. I mean, again, you've been on this journey for more than 3 decades. Is there a better time to be in tech than now? I mean, there's some magical outcomes. The combinatorial effect of all the innovation that's happening around us is mind-numbing. It's what a privilege for us to do what we do.
Well, and I think given maybe some of our ages, we got to see what wasn't possible, and now we get to see what is possible, right? So it is I'm grateful. I feel like it's a privilege to be at this place right now to be able to see some of that vision play out.
I think all of us have gone through from age of scarcity to age of abundance. And now, honestly, I feel you're limited by your imagination. Like, if you can imagine it, you can do it. I don't really see technology as an impediment for you to find ways to delight your customers and create wealth for your sellers, as an example. So it's amazing. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry for
no, exactly.
Enthusiastic commentary.
It's the Disney quote, right? If you can dream it, you can do it. I mean,
and I'm not sure if I've always believed that. I've been in tech for 30 as well, and I see things that I just hold on to the beginner's mindset, because if you need to challenge dominant logic, the velocity, speed, and direction of innovation is such that what you thought was impossible even a year ago is most likely being done by someone,
Right.
either yourself or your competitor, or someone. So
yeah, I think in technology, we've had a lot of these ideas for a long time. It's been compute that's held them back, and the speed of compute now makes so many things possible that we've understood for a while. We just couldn't deliver on them.
But you need CEOs like yourself. You need people to kind of challenge assumptions, starting with your own, and kind of keep pushing forward.
Sometimes my team gets a little tired of me challenging
No,
assumptions.
I think the best CEOs I know, they are driving with purpose.
Yeah,
with purpose. So anyway,
oh man, I got the Rob Schneider, Adam Sandler quote: "You can do it."
you can do it.
You can do it. It's like,
well, I can't believe you brought
this
that
has
up.
been really enjoyable. Thank you so much, David Roberts, CEO of SugarCRM, and he's trying to change the world in CRM and more. So stay tuned.
Thank you both.
Hey, thanks a lot for being here. Happy Friday.
He's got 5 books in him just based on what he shared with us on the show. So
I know, but
come on, David, let's go. You're sitting on bestsellers. Speaking of best-selling authors, amazing authors, we have Jonathan Stutz, author of Daily Practices of Inclusive Leaders, a guide to building a culture of belonging. Jonathan is founder and president of Global Diversity Partners. Jonathan has over 25 years experience working in leading edge companies, small companies like Amazon, Microsoft,
I've never heard of them.
Yeah. Jonathan led inclusion, diversity, equity for 4 international businesses within Amazon's worldwide operational group. And at Microsoft, he initially led ID&E for the worldwide sales. We were just talking about sales and support groups, and for worldwide operations group. Later, Jonathan led global readiness teams, ensuring Microsoft products were politically, culturally, geographically appropriate in markets across the world. As a community leader, Jonathan serves on the board of trustees for Youth Eastside Services, a nonprofit for youth and families supporting behavioral health and substance issues in Bellevue, Washington. He served as Human Services Commissioner for the City of Bellevue and Kirkland, Washington. Jonathan has served on the National Diversity Committee for Society of Human Resources Management, SHRM, and is the past president of SHRM's local Lake Washington chapter. Welcome, Jonathan, to DisrupTV.
Thanks. Great to be here. Great to really enjoy. Thank you.
Congratulations on your book.
Congratulations on the book. So it's an interesting time. And as we're thinking about all the little nudges, all the things that people can do along the way, what inspired you to write the book? Did you see this shift happening, the pendulum swinging back? Were you in the hype of it and you realized, wait, or you just said, this is an evergreen issue?
I had the inspiration to write this book with my co-author, Eddie Pate, probably, back in the early 2010s. I was working on a master's thesis called The Yellow Brick Road of Leadership. And it came down to me from like my childhood and experiences. I've been leading teams and studying leaders and leadership for many, many years. And the master's thesis was about having heart, having brains, having courage, and having a vision for a destination that we all want to get to. Sounds a lot like The Wizard of Oz. And really, in my studies of leadership, it really intersected with this movie that had such meaning for me throughout my childhood. So that was actually the original inspiration. And then coming together with my co-author, Dr. Eddie Pate, he'd been working on this insights for inclusive leadership for most of his career, building this over time, adapting and evolving it. And so the combination of us coming together led to this book. And it just happened to be the timing. I mean, we worked under the radar doing diversity work for many, many years, like you mentioned, going back 25 years. And it wasn't only till recently where these attacks have really, taken a turn. And so the timing of our book is just outstanding for folks to really understand what this topic is all about.
Yeah, no, and definitely huge. And I think Vala might be on mute, so we'll see if we...
I'm sorry. My question is, what are business leaders missing when it comes to understanding and appreciating the importance of inclusivity and inclusive leadership? Like, what's the blind spot that folks have?
Yeah.
And the recent rhetoric around, not fully embracing the power.
Yeah. Well, and to be really, real about it, it's the attacks. But what people are missing is they think that this is going to add a huge amount of work to their already full plates. And the position we take in the book is that really inclusive leadership is leadership, first off. And then secondly, we use two metaphors in the book. And one of them is that we are all asking people to do is drop a pebble. And basically, it's little intentional actions that you can do every day or a couple, 3 times a week to really create a ripple. And this ripple creates a wave by taking these small actions, these small daily practices, that you're actually inspiring others to drop pebbles. And so an example would be, let's say you're in a meeting and somebody gets interrupted. One of the daily practices we talk about is this idea of using the pause button and creating a cultural norm that when somebody's interrupted in a meeting or somebody takes somebody else's idea, either intentionally or unintentionally, somebody says, hey, hold on a second, I want to hit the pause button. And it forces folks to slow down and think more introspectively, to just kind of analytic and more critical analysis of what's happening in the room and having the conversation then in the moment, rather than just like watching it go by and happen and creating this culture where people are getting interrupted, but stopping it, slowing it down, having the conversation in the moment. So that's just one example. There's many in the book throughout. The book's aligned by the employee life cycle, so you're literally able to use it as a guide. But it is about these small daily practices that can move the dial over time, and that it's not adding a whole lot of work to people's already full plates. To your second question about the attacks, really there's a false narrative out there. As I like to say, the narrative around what inclusion, diversity, and equity is about has been hijacked. And, it's never been a zero-sum game. It's a situation where everybody wins. We're getting to everybody what they need in order to be successful, and creating a culture where everybody feels they're included and they belong, which ultimately is about building high-performance teams, building highly effective teams.
And Jonathan, I have just a quick follow-up. You can learn inclusivity. I mean, based on your experience, you can learn empathy, self-awareness, kindness, humility. It seems like soft skills are the hardest to develop. But you say with daily practices, with enough sunshine, enough water, enough richness in the soil, you can, as a gardener, you can end up having beautiful outcomes. But it must be, it's hard, isn't it?
It starts with leaders being vulnerable, being open, and connecting with their employees at a deeper level, getting to know people for who they are. We all humans have a basic human need to be seen, heard, valued, and understood. And so connecting with your employees at a deeper level, I think one of the most underutilized opportunities is the one-on-one meeting, where you sit down with your employees either once a week for half hour or every 2 weeks for maybe 45 minutes, and getting to know them, and not just using that time to talk about status on projects. And obviously you want to talk about what issues or challenges they're having and helping them through that. But getting to know them at this deeper level about who they are. We come into work and we're all expected to perform at a high level every day. And the reality is that's just not possible. No one can be at 100% every day. We have lives outside of work. People are dealing with sick parents or sick child, or they're maybe going through a divorce, or even as simple as getting a ticket on the way to work that affects their productivity. And by leaders taking the time to demonstrate their own vulnerability of that they're human, that they're going through stuff, and being open to sharing, that sends a message to the employees that they can be themselves and they can share what's going on in their lives. And that helps employees connect with their managers, and find out what their goals, their aspirations are, and really create a culture where folks feel that they belong, that they're trusted and valued. And you're going to get higher levels of loyalty, higher levels of productivity. Just really having more care and compassion in the workplace, it can make a big difference. So these soft skills, I think so often folks, I know at Microsoft in the early days when I was there, folks were promoted based upon their technical acumen, right? But then the reality is they got into these leadership positions and they really didn't have the skills to manage people, to lead teams, to inspire people. And so Microsoft went through a transformation about 10 years ago, where they talked about management excellence, and they really focused on these soft skills and building these out. And that led to a lot of, managers, performing at a much higher level, building these high performing teams. And I think it's part of why Microsoft has continued to grow and excel over the years.
Sure.
That's actually a great point. But Microsoft also went through this middle aging out, right? At some point, you'd go there and nobody would talk about work. It was really scary. They would talk about the meal plan, the diets they were on, what they were doing with their wine club, and nobody was talking about product, right? And then something shaked it up, right? I mean, and that's really part of that leadership journey that I thought was very interesting there. And was it a daily habit? Was it something different that they used? I mean, is it something out of the book? I mean, you have a couple of things where you have people, you look at daily habits across the board in terms of, whether it's daily courage or daily heart. I mean, just use Microsoft as an example. Like, how does it manifest there?
Yeah, I think Satya, when he came in what was it, about 2013, 2014, he at the time had a son who's unfortunately since passed away, had a son with a disability, and he became much more a prominent figure talking about the importance of diversity, the importance of equity and inclusion, and thinking about people with disabilities as just one dimension of diversity that the company had already for years been focused on with the accessibility team and ensuring products were accessible for people with disabilities. But I think it became even more of a priority for the company, and it ultimately led to the company making it a part of every performance review where employees had to talk about what they were doing, whether it was as simple as being a part of an employee resource group or mentoring somebody or going through training. But they had to demonstrate that they were continuing to learn and grow and lifelong learners in the space of creating cultures where you not only connect with your employees, but people are connecting with each other. And I think that helped the company along in understanding that this is a huge priority because we're a global company. Like 2/3 of Microsoft sales are from outside North America. Yeah. So being able to work with people from different cultures, styles, backgrounds is key to bringing out the best in them.
But let's contrast that with the neighbor across on the other side of the bay.
Exactly.
Very different on the Amazon side. I had a friend who left Oracle, went to Microsoft, and he said, "Oh my God, this culture is so different." He's like, "How do they get work done?" Right? He's like, "I yell at someone and they cry." He's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, I try to get people to work over the weekend. They have work-life balance. I don't know what's going on. And he goes over to Amazon. I was like, "Oh my God, this place is amazing. Like, we work and we get stuff done. We work over weekends. We yell, we scream, we get stuff done, right? Like, we don't worry about it. Nobody's thinking about all these other factors."
I'm not a fan of yelling and screaming, just for the record.
Sorry.
Not great. There was plenty of yelling and screaming at the early days of Microsoft too, I'll tell you.
I'm sure there was.
Oh yeah.
That's how we got there.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite basketball owners used to work there. Yeah,
that guy.
A lot of yelling and screaming.
He did spit very far. So.
Yeah, I love his energy. Yeah. No, but the daily practices, like as Jonathan's speaking about, and like small. I work for an executive that when he would have a staff meeting, the most junior person was asked to weigh in first. So people knew that at this person's meeting, your title didn't mean you had the best idea. The best idea was not, it was just the best idea. It could come from anyone. And then when I was an intern, I remember walking the halls of my company and a vice president said my name, "Hello, Vala." And like instantly I felt like my work mattered. Like it wasn't sense of belonging, it was sense of mattering. Because I'm like, if this person knows my name, surely he knows about the work I'm doing. And if he remembers my name, he probably values my work. Who knows how he remembered my name? But internally, I was like, I got a boost just because I heard my name.
Right.
So,
and how easy is that? Vala, how easy is that? I call them micro opportunities in the book.
Yeah.
You're walking down the hall, you're passing somebody. How easy is it to just, if you're able to look at them and nod, or even say good morning or hello? You could even be on a cell phone and you can still nod and say hello, and knowing their name is absolutely critical. So that just having people being seen is so basic but yet look how it made you feel. It changed your day. You remember it to this day.
I still remember Tom Bunce.
Yeah.
This is a name I haven't said in 30 years. Tom
The
Bunce
second-
walked up, and he
You're
was
out there,
second
Tom
one
Bunce.
you
Please
mentioned-
come join the show.
he wasn't
Yeah.
a name. He was number 2 in the company. And I don't understand how he knew my name. By the way, later on, because I ended up reporting to Tom Bunce, I found out he's exceptional with names. That's his superpower, which I
Wow.
lack. I wish I had his superpower. But
The second one you mentioned was lead with your ears that's in the book. This idea of listening to people intently and deeply and demonstrating that by asking questions, clarifying, paraphrasing back, maybe taking notes. And it's also taking your cell phone when they walk in the room and putting it in your bag or shutting your laptop down so that you're giving them that full attention. You know, these are things that send nonverbal messages that people matter and they're valued in the support.
And Jonathan, for me, I'm telling you, it was 4 words. When I heard these 4 words, I immediately got a boost. And the 4 words were, what do you think? Like when people asked about my opinion and they were higher in the organizational chart, like immediately I was like, wow, I must be doing something right, because why do they care about what I think? I'm 5 levels removed from this person, but they're asking about my opinion. I'm telling you, that one question was like having Gatorade or I don't know,
Yeah.
like an energy drink. Energy.
It's rocket
I
fuel.
had such a
It's
different
rocket fuel.
experience. Mine was like Ray Wong, principal's office. So I don't know. I don't know about you. So,
No. Sometimes you don't want your name called, but I remember I haven't mentioned Tom Bunce in 30 years, but I remember when he used my name. It's fun. It's amazing. It's amazing.
VP of Engineering in Tarsus. There you go.
Yeah.
And what you did is by you saying that now, you're
Yeah.
dropping a pebble. And we're hearing it. Your 5,000 plus listeners are hearing it. And, you know, they're going to go start doing that and remembering it. And that's the ripple that kind of builds up to create this culture of belonging.
To me, it's like common sense. When we talk about diversity as a competitive advantage. By the way, I'm an immigrant refugee, so anytime I hear anti-diversity, anti-inclusion, I get a rash, because I've had such an amazing life, because people were kind enough to say, hey, this guy doesn't look like us. He doesn't eat the same food. He doesn't dress like us. He doesn't play the sports. He doesn't speak the language, but it's okay. He's smiling. So come on in, you know, like with absolute surface level understanding of my demeanor.
Yeah.
I had these amazing people open doors for me. And I just don't understand how you could be against. I don't understand. I just don't understand it. My lizard brain doesn't.
Well, and you
compute.
bring a different perspective, different ideas, your life experience. It adds so much value to the team. You're going to help them see those blind spots. And, you know, it's incredible for the driving creativity and innovation in an organization.
Read the book, folks that are listening, because these are layups. Like Jonathan isn't asking you to take a 3-pointer or a half-court shot. When you look at some of these practices that are referenced, like, you know, like listening with your eyes, or listening to the unsaid, or using people's names, or being polite and not interrupting people. Like, I wish common sense was common, Jonathan. But
it wouldn't be special then.
Yeah. Well, you're going to end up being special, because these are all doable.
Thank you.
Jonathan isn't asking you to jump through hoops. It's, but it's not common. It's just not common.
Oh, no, you were definitely getting that in the everyday inclusion point. But I like the conclusion. Challenge accepted. What it means to lead inclusively. Talk a little bit about that. Like, why was there a challenge accepted?
Well, I think that, you know, we have a lot of challenge in the workplace today, and it's very difficult when you have people with different lived experiences than the dominant culture. And so we're asking people to step up and come to a greater awareness that not everybody has the same experience at work. And this is hard for folks, because people come from a place oftentimes of privilege, of power, of status that they didn't necessarily do anything to get. You know, I'm a white male, able-bodied, thin, you know, man who is heterosexual. And with that, it just happens to have occurred from the family I was born into, where I was born, the opportunities I was given. And I have a responsibility then to use that privilege to lift up people that have been historically discriminated against and oppressed, that are also working alongside me with great talent and skill, but are potentially being ostracized, there's bias against them based upon stereotypes and unconscious biases that people either may or may not be even aware of, right? And so, but we need them a part of the workforce. We want them to be high performing. So we call it spend your privilege. And so this challenge accepted is about leveraging your, not just sitting back and saying, well, I have this privilege, but there's this fear that's saying, like, if I don't use it, I'm acknowledging that I have something that I didn't potentially earn, that I just got because of the family I was born into, the socioeconomic class I had. So we're saying spend your privilege, challenge yourself to wake up every day with a dilemma. The world isn't the way it should be. You have a dilemma. Are you going to get up every day and think about what I can do to make the world a better place, to make it a better culture of belonging where I work? That's what we're asking people to do, is to step up and spend your privilege, leverage that to lift up others. And when you're in a meeting, it's the same, like, again, it's not hard work. You're sitting in a meeting, you see somebody else being ignored, not being heard, not being listened to, and you just say, hey, we haven't heard from Vala yet. We haven't heard from Ray. Let's get their ideas. What do you guys think?
It's like you heard from Ray. Ray's
Such
not
shy wallflowers here. Yeah,
Shy
I don't know
wall.
about that. No.
Hey,
Yeah, no, I love the message, and yeah, we shouldn't allow zip code to be the biggest determinant of your future. We should
Absolutely.
Well, it depends. You got to create some good. You create your own zip code. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you're in a nice zip code. I know where you live. So.
I know where you live. Jonathan Stutz, co-author of Daily Practices of Inclusive Leaders, a guide to building a culture of belonging. Get the book on Amazon. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Yeah, a lot of nuggets of wisdom there. This is our cleanup hitter spot where we invite like extraordinary people and they hit a home run. So my Bruins and the Celtics are out of the playoffs, so I have to lean into some baseball analogy. But we have Wes Adams and Tamara Myles, co-authors of Meaningful Work: How to Ignite Passion and Performance in Every Employee. What a beautiful cover, by the way. Like,
I love the picture.
Thank you. We loved it too. I think our publisher nailed it.
Yeah, no, this is really
A
awesome.
home run
It stands
for
out.
sure.
It definitely stands out, even in my pile of books. Wes Adams is CEO of SV Consulting Group, partners with Fortune 500 and scaling companies to develop high-impact leaders and design operating structures that support high-performance teams. Wes is also a positive psychology researcher at the University of Pennsylvania, where he studies the leadership practices and organizational structures that help employees thrive. Tamara Myles is speaker, author, professor, and entrepreneur specializing in science of human flourishing at work. Tamara helps leaders and organizations, again, small companies like Microsoft, KPMG, MassMutual, unlock the power of meaningful work to drive peak performance, innovation, and resilience. A faculty member at Boston College. Oh, Boston College, cool. I drive by it quite often. And a researcher and instructor at the University of Pennsylvania. Tamara's work challenges assumptions about work, showing that when leaders make work meaningful, they create thriving teams and lasting impact. Welcome both to DisrupTV.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for having us. And, we second everything that Jonathan said.
Oh my God! How about Jonathan
know. I was
Stutz?
like,
That guy
yes,
was amazing. It was so hard not to jump in and
I
be a
know.
part of that conversation.
This is when I told you our producer is world class. There's a flow to our show, and that's masterfully done with Al.
Yeah, we have no idea what's happening to us when we're on these.
Yeah. We just show up. Anyway, good to have you.
Well, we love having you here, and we're talking about meaningful work, and this is actually an interesting question, right? Because humans are trying to figure out mission and purpose as we enter this age of AI. So, what is meaningful work, and why is it so important?
Go ahead, Wes. You go.
Thank you. I think actually, I want to first just kind of dispel one of the myths of meaningful work, that it's the same as purpose, right? I think we often get meaning and purpose confused, and having purpose is great. Having purpose is important. It's kind of the goal, the vision of the future that we have, that we want to work towards. And just having a purpose isn't enough to create meaning. We need to see progress towards that purpose. We need to understand how our work is contributing towards that, what impact we're having. And that's 1/3 of what makes up meaningful work, which is what we call the 3 C's: community, contribution, and challenge. And I'm going to let Tamara dive in on the 3 of those.
Sure. So community is pretty much everything that Jonathan was talking about. It's this feeling of being included, of belonging to a community of shared values where people care about you. So community says, I matter here. Contribution is the feeling that what you do matters, that you're making progress on something that matters to you, to the organization, and that people notice the work that you do and acknowledge you for it. And finally, challenge is the belief that people around you, that your leaders and managers and your colleagues see your strengths and believe in your potential, and that you have the opportunity to grow and learn. And so community says, I matter here. Contribution says, what I do matters here. And challenge says, my growth and development matters here.
That's a, do you think high agency attracts meaningful work? Like when you're inherently motivated to solve problems, when you're not waiting for a title to lead, when you're not looking for applause, you're just a doer. Does that help attract meaningful work, or I guess do you have to earn the things you need to do in order to position yourself? It was like Bobby Knight, the famous basketball coach. He said, "Be in position to score." What can people do to attract communities and challenging work and the C's you mentioned?
Well, I think one of the things that we learned in our research is that moments of meaning can happen in every job every day if we know where to look and if we have the guidance of a great leader. And so I think waiting, or this idea of having to earn meaningful work is also something that we want to dispel. And it's that idea that if I'm working at a nonprofit, or if I'm working in healthcare, like that's meaningful work, and otherwise I'm just working for a paycheck, right? But we came across people who were janitors, people who were hairstylists, people who worked in a wide variety of industries that found incredible meaning in their work because of moments of these 3 C's that happen. And we also found that leaders account for about half of those moments, right? About half of the meaning that we find in our work is tied to what our leaders are doing, or telling us, or helping us see, or also what they're failing to do or show us, right? And that's a huge leverage point because it drives all of the outcomes that we want. Meaning is the upstream factor that leads to not only our individual well-being and job satisfaction and things like that, but it drives performance, it drives creativity and innovation. We know from a recent study, a multi-year study at Oxford, it drives stock price and profitability, right? So these are really powerful factors that leaders should really be leaning into.
It's actually interesting. I'm thinking about all these different practices, and just on Monday, we're at the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference, and they launched Workout Buddy, which gives you little nudges, like congratulations, you finished the mile, you did this, whatever. And it was really funny because in the group I was in, everybody was the son or daughter of immigrants, and we're like, where is like the taskmaster coach on the other end, right? Because you guys talk about the power of positive, right? Positive reinforcement, positive, impact. And on the other end, we're all thinking like, wait, we didn't get here that way.
My mom last week was asking me when I'm going to go back to grad school to get my PhD. I'm like,
yeah.
Come on. So Ray and I think, have had immigrant moments that
we
still
had the power
today.
of negative feedback, and we wanted it as a feature in Work Buddy. And
I don't think she feels that I've done any meaningful work at all in my
Tamara, as an immigrant mom, can you weigh in on that?
It's so funny. So I immigrated here from Brazil, and just today I was on Instagram, and there was a reel that popped up. It's like the difference between Brazilian moms and American moms. And it was this, and I was like, oh yeah, that's spot on. And I sent it to my kids. I was like, what do you think? But I think, we're not saying, never give corrective feedback. It's just that we typically only focus on corrective feedback, and we tend to forget or ignore, or maybe even not even know about the power of positive feedback. And I think that goes back to what Jonathan was saying about these moments of feeling seen. When when a leader or colleague can come to you and say, hey, I noticed how hard you worked today on that deck for so-and-so to present. And I was at the meeting, and it was so beautiful how you did the customer personas, and it was so effective. And thank you for using your creativity. I just wanted you to know that it made a real impact. Something like that, 30 seconds, you're like, oh, I was just doing my job, but someone noticed, someone appreciated it.
Yeah.
Those moments really add up to us feeling seen and appreciated. And then we want to double down and do more of that.
Advice
Ray,
for
who was the
ENFJs.
who's the behavioral science professor from Stanford that was on our show?
BJ Fogg. Tiny
Oh yeah.
Habits.
So BJ
There you
Fong
go.
talked about your
Nudges,
behavior is based
nudges.
on your talent, motivation, and prompt.
Mhm.
So BJ said, like, if you want to drink water while you're sitting behind your computer, put a bottle of water in front of you, and it'll remind you that you need to drink. And when it's empty, you refill it. And I started doing that. Sure enough, I was getting my 6 to 8 bottles a day. So prompt. Maybe Ray and I do this show as a prompt, where a weekly reminder, extraordinary best-selling authors like yourselves come on the show, and it just reminds us, like, oh, maybe our work matters. Maybe we're doing something.
Maybe we
right.
should write another book.
Yeah.
There's mom. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
not doing
there's
enough.
mom,
You need to write another book. Yeah.
There we go.
No, but it's true. It wasn't until I wrote a book. my
New
mom
one's
did the
coming
same
out in
thing.
September, by the way, Ray. So,
Okay. I will.
I haven't announced it yet, but anyway, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
it wasn't until I wrote a book until my mom got off my back about going to B school, going to med school, going to law school. I'm like, I'm done.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the book did it for you. The book did it for you.
The
Like,
book did it because it was published by Harvard Business Press.
I
I
still
just
haven't
did it.
got
I was done.
Oh, I
At that
see.
point, I was like, this is great.
Isn't that funny? When I was going to college, I had the choice of I could go to medical school, engineering school, or law school. Those were my 3 choices,
had
and
3
I
choices.
was
I
a
only had
rebel.
one. No, I had 2 maybe.
I went to advertising school, so it took a while.
Not invited to holiday get-togethers for a while.
Exactly.
Okay, so what can leaders do? Jonathan gave us some examples, some great examples. We've got lots of leaders all through stages of their careers watching the show. Give them some advice, like, Monday they go back to work, and what can they do that can bring some meaning, not just sense of belonging, but mattering to the folks that they have the privilege of working with.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about a couple of things in the contribution bucket, because that can be a very helpful place to start. It's one of the ones that we're most familiar with. And one of them that we just talked about is just saying thank you, right? Remembering to thank people for their work, acknowledging the work that they're doing. There's recent research from Gallup and WorkHuman. 1 thank you once a week from a manager is enough to cut disengagement and burnout in half. One thank you once a week. And less than 40% of people in that study felt that they were appropriately recognized for their work. So that is such a piece of low-hanging fruit that's so easy to do, right? And when we're thanked, it makes us feel acknowledged, like our work matters, right? And that gives us a sense of contribution, like we're having an impact on the team. And if you want to go a level above that, you connect the dots for people, help them understand how that work actually laddered up to a larger organizational goal or something that the team was after, right? Help them see some progress towards that purpose or that bigger goal or the impact that it had on a client. And that's a job of communication and storytelling that leaders, need to invest in.
That's amazing. Ray, I want to thank you for being a great co-host. I just realized. Thanks, Wes, for reminding me.
We have immigrant parents. I don't need to thank you. You know I love you anyway. Why do we need to do all this extra stuff?
Just think about all of that extra energy that could be unlocked with a few thank yous that you've been desperately starving for all these years.
I know, but it's good training. I like to keep all of it. Just kidding.
Awesome. We have Whitney Johnson on our show, one of my favorite guests. I think there's 50, just a partner with former Professor Clay Christensen. And Whitney said that as much as mentors are talked often, we have reverence for mentors, and a sponsor has a much bigger impact on your career. And I thought about it, reflecting, and I'm like, you're right. The folks that gave me a sense of belonging, mattering, and gave me validation that my work was meaningful were people that had put their political social capital on the line. They were higher in the org chart, and they gave me space to experiment. They gave me budget. They gave me headcount. They gave me validation that I was on the right track. So do you think, and this is perhaps why you talk about the role of leaders, do leaders need to deliberately focus on mentoring and being good sponsors, because that's maybe the best vehicle to bring that meaningful, cultivating that culture of meaningful work at their companies?
One of the strongest findings in our study is a practice that we put under the challenge C, and what we call putting people in the zone of possibility, right? And this is what you're talking about. This is where you see people, you see their potential, you advocate for them, and you help them get there. So if you think of a matrix where, one axis is high support and low support, and the other axis is high expectations and low expectations. You want to put people in the quadrant that has high expectations and high support. When you believe that people can do something and you show them, what they might not even think they're capable of, but then you offer them high support and you advocate for them and you give them mentoring and you give them resources and tools to get there, that unlocks such a high sense of meaning. And it's hard, right? When we have to do something difficult that we don't think we're ready for, those experiences are hard. And in the moment, we might struggle. But then after, when we do it and we have, we have the accomplishment and the pride and the growth and the learning that comes with that, those are moments that really stick with us. I'm sure now all your listeners are probably remembering that person and that moment of the person who did that for them, a leader, a coach, a parent, somebody who did that.
I love that. When I think of that upper right quadrant, high expectation, high support, that's how you win championships. Champions have high expectations because they've shown incredible skills and discipline, and so the health conditioning and talent is there. Underneath it, to me, is the prodigy. So high expectations because you've seen moments of excellence, but you don't give enough support to them, so they don't end up winning consistently. Exactly. So I love that analogy, champion, prodigy, and it's the combination of high expectation, high support that creates champion. Sorry, Ray, I just get another athletic analogy. No, you live in Boston, city of champions. That's all you think about.
I know. And let me just brag, my daughter's lacrosse team won the Division I state championship last night. So I know. So exciting.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Why, I did go to school that celebrated lacrosse. I think it was Hopkins, but who knows?
Just went to Duke.
It's just more evidence that Brazilian mom approach is working, right?
Better. I like
it. He was out there in the rain and snow in Concord practicing. I know someone was there. Look at Ray holding the stick like that.
Could we? I want to tie back what we were just talking about to something David Roberts said earlier. This idea of high expectations and high support and enabling people, right? I mean, he was talking a lot about how.
He's still watching the show, just so you know.
Oh, awesome. Well, love you, David Roberts. He was talking about how artificial intelligence and business intelligence and contextual intelligence, right, are kind of enabling people to get a lot of those day-to-day tasks out of the way and focus on the really human skills. I think he talked about curiosity and communication and things like innovation and creativity. These are like the most human of human skills that are going to become more and more valuable. And we need that kind of high expectation and high support to unlock those things. Meaning is what helps us reach into the future and think about ways of doing things that haven't been done before, and approaching things in different ways.
I didn't want to miss not talking about the zone of possibility with you guys here. So share a little bit about the concept and why it takes you to the next level.
Yeah, so the zone of possibility is exactly that quadrant where high expectations meets high support. And this came up so often in our study, right? And then we started digging into research about exactly what you said, champions, athletes, parenting, and in all of those domains, education, there's some kind of magic of these high expectations, but high support, right? And in parity, the high support is love and care. And, in leadership, the high support is resources, mentorship, allyship, sponsoring, like all those things. But what happens in the zone of possibility is that we might panic a little bit because the expectations are so high, right? So we're like, holy cow, like they think I can do this. But the other part is like, all right, I'm going to prove them right. Somebody really believes in me. So it gives us those like wings to fly. And then it's like, okay, what help do I need? What support? All right, I'm having access to all these things. And so we have so many examples. The story that we tell to anchor that chapter in the book is of world-class choreographer and director Christopher Wheeldon, who has won multiple Grammy Awards and other distinctions. And he talked to us and told us the stories of the people who really believed in him. And when he was directing his first musical, he was terrified and he didn't think he could do it, but people believed in him and it helped him believe in himself.
I love that. I love that. I'm not familiar exactly with the story, but just the use of
The MJ director.
the word choreography, because I think that when you do have sense of pride and joy and meaning, it's less about orchestration. It's not command and control. It's the dancer on stage when she hears the music knows exactly where she should be, where the other dancers are. So it's choreographed, and so it's co-creation of value and beauty, not necessarily one person guiding the journey. So I don't know. I just like the word choreography. That was kind of cool.
No, I know him because he was at the San Francisco Ballet. Not that I follow that.
Oh, okay, all right. There we go. I would pretend I go to the Boston Ballet, but I don't.
I think he is. That's the same guy, right? I think so.
My final question to you: in the process of writing the book, new learnings, blind spots you had, or beautiful moments of even more meaningful moments in the process of writing a book, and having co-authors
and tag team writing with co-authors.
Yeah. I'm familiar with that, and it takes a special person to be able.
Gotta have a flow, I hear.
So, and any aha moments, any lessons learned, any blind spots, anything you care to share in terms of the process of writing an amazing book?
I've got two, and then I'll let Tamara take us home. I would say one thing that we learned that was surprising and I think really powerful was how much recruiting and onboarding that process affects someone's sense of meaning throughout their career with a company. So the way that you talk about a company in the recruiting process, talk about values and mission and those sorts of things, and then those first couple of months where you're making connections for people, they're building relationships. You're also building what we call cultural mastery, helping them understand what it's like to work here and what the stories are and that sort of thing. That has ripple effects throughout someone's tenure at an organization. And so really something that a lot of organizations don't focus enough on, that's a huge leverage point. And I think personally, I don't think I would have written this book if I wasn't working with Tamara. She was somebody that supported me and challenged me and put me in the zone of possibility.
High praise.
I think it's not easy, as you guys know. It's there are some tough moments when you just can't make that chapter work.
Champion lacrosse players, best-selling authors, as long as you're in her orbit, good things happen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ride her coattails.
I agree. I think it was a really special experience to co-author the book with Wes. I learned so much. I had him to rely on. There were moments that I was like, I can't, I need help. And he would take a chapter and point out things that I hadn't thought of, and we'd go back and forth. And I think that was amazing. And I would do it again, Wes. Let's do it.
Whoa!
Maybe not soon, but okay, I'm done.
Well, one thing I think that surprised me about meaningful work when we were doing the research is that we often think about meaningful work or meaning as these intense moments where, we saved a life or we met a customer who really benefited deeply from the medicine we created or something like that. And those, of course, are really meaningful. But meaning is a lot more about frequency, about these everyday moments that matter. It's exactly what Jonathan was talking about, those pebbles that create ripples, that create waves. And as leaders, we can create those everyday moments for people, and those moments really add up.
We've got a Davos panel here with these three guests today.
Ray, Ray has an annual conference at Half Moon Bay at the Ritz, and big brains like you two come and inspire the audience. So
you had me at the Ritz. We're there.
I know.
Yeah. Half Moon Bay. What a bad place, championship golf course and
one of the organizations that we studied and talk about in the book, by the way.
Yeah.
It's actually
really great at telling these stories. Yeah.
Cool.
But it is actually interesting. Those two places, take Ritz versus Four Seasons, they operate very differently. So, Wes Adams, Tamara Myles, co-author, Meaningful Work, How to Handle Passion and Performance in Every Employee and Ignite Passion and Performance in Every Employee. Thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And see you in the green room.
Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Look at that.
This is the fastest hour of my week. It just feels like 5 minutes. All four guests, we could have spent the entire hour. We didn't even get to all the questions we want to get through. Because of my brain wandering. But that was awesome. You want to recap 30 seconds? Give us a ChatGPT version of what we just heard for an hour.
I will try. Yeah, with David Roberts, we talked about where the future of CRM's headed. Right. We talk about this often. It's a topic you and I have been talking about for 20 years, and I think we're going to see a shift. Right, back to the seller, back to the next best action, back to where it actually works for the individual, not for the man. And I think that's one of the big shifts we're seeing with agentic AI and other things that are happening in the market. I think with Jonathan, we're in a world that DEI is being thrown out. It's under attack. But there are many elements that actually can help you in terms of building inclusive leaders. And of course, really creating that culture of belonging. So you could actually do that in a world of meritocracy too. It doesn't have to be DEI. And I think that's really important to take those elements, strip it in, and really think about where that fits. We are shifting back to that. And you can see that every day for the last 3-4 years. The backlash on DEI was the abuses at DEI, but not about there's many, many great concepts that were there that can be applied, and it can be applied in the workplace. And we ended really talking about meaningful work. And I think this is actually really interesting because at some point you don't work for money anymore. There's a higher level. There's creating an environment to get that higher level done. There's creating an environment to unlock potential. And I think for those who read the book, they're going to understand exactly what it means for them to be successful. So a little chattier than ChatGPT, but
no, that was more like Claude, more complexity. That was Turbo Gemini. Yeah, that was good. That was great. That was great, Ray.
Oh my God, look at this lineup, dude. Whew.
Yeah, we're going to take some time off. We got a few weeks off, travel, business, celebration. 4th of July. But we'll be back on July 11th with episode 403. Christopher Lockheed, one of my favorite guests, 13-time #1 best-selling author, and #1 podcaster, and co-creator of Category Pirates. And it's best known as the godfather of category design. So he's fascinating. Last time he was here, we talked about late Bill Walton. All of us were crying and teary-eyed.
We're crying.
Yeah. You saw three men just completely crushed based on what had just happened. And he was a good friend of Bill Walton. Anyway, Chris is going to be here. And Sunil Karkera, founder, engineering and design at Soul of the Machine.
He is one of the first AI-first companies we are following. These new companies that are going to go from 100-person into companies that will take out billion-dollar companies, 1,000-person companies that will be the first billion-dollar services company. It's a brand new category of organizations we're seeing. So
again, inventor of category design and someone who's actually doing it. So it's going to be
great production.
Yeah, it's going to be a great episode. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for helping us cross the 400+ episode milestone, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye, everyone.